I hope you enjoyed the last Firebase talk where we talked about some of the new things. And I'm going to be doing a deep dive today speaking about how Firebase and Google Cloud Platform can be used together to build some really amazing apps. My name's Andrew. I'm one of the co-founders of Firebase. Before I dive in, though, I want to say how really excited I am to be here. Firebase has come a long way in the last 6 years. And this year has really been our best yet. So if you saw I/O last year, we really expanded the platform. And since that time, over 1 million developers have used Firebase to build an app. If you're one of those developers, thank you. I really appreciate the trust you've placed in us to help us build your app and to build your business. But first, let's take a minute to time travel back to 2011. Our team started working out of a co-working space in San Francisco. And one of the first things that we did when we began working on Firebase was write down the vision for what we were trying to build. And the first sentence read, "Build the simplest to use and easiest to understand app development platform in the world." We felt that cloud computing was breaking its promise to developers. Well, it had reduced the capital required for you to build and scale software. It had done very little to make the actual writing of that software easier. Cloud computing was supposed to save developers time. It was supposed to reduce their cognitive load and let them focus on delivering actual value to their customers. And it really hadn't done that yet. And we wanted to fix that. The amazing part about this statement is that this is still our mission today. This is still what we're working on. And it's gotten a whole lot easier since we've joined Google because we get to work directly with Google Cloud Platform. While Firebase is a full suite of products for building and growing mobile apps and web apps, we know that some apps need more than we can offer out of the box. For example, they might need specialized analytics or specialized types of storage. They might need to do intensive computations or, say, machine learning. And in many of these cases, the Firebase core offerings can't help you. But Google Cloud Platform can. If you don't know much about Cloud Platform, it gives developers the ability to use Google's computing infrastructure to build, deploy, and run software at massive scale. And this is a huge investment area for Google. We've invested more than $30 billion in the last 3 years on this infrastructure. And Cloud Platform offers a full range of products across storage, compute, networking, big data, and machine learning. OK, so what does this have to do with Firebase? Well, Firebase and Cloud Platform are really a complementary pair. And combined, they provide a full suite of products to let you serve even the most demanding use cases. And we've really designed this platform to make it easy to use them together. If you're a mobile developer, you can start using Firebase for its high-level mobile features and its rapid time to market. And then when your needs get more complex, you can move over and start using products from Cloud Platform to augment your app. On the flip side, if you're a back-end developer and you want to start with Cloud Platform, later you can start using Firebase when you build out your apps. This is all made possible because under the hood, Firebase and Cloud share a number of common components. First, they have a common foundation. They share the same project and billing and account systems. So when you create a Firebase project, it is literally a cloud project. Second, we're actually beginning to share products as well. We recently announced that cloud storage would be available through Firebase. Cloud storage is Google's petabyte-scale storage offering. And we also announced that Cloud Functions would be available through Firebase. And you can expect to see more of these integrations going forward, with cloud products being available directly through Firebase. As we continue to integrate Firebase and Cloud Platform, we're seeing more and more customers doing great things together with these technologies. For example, National Public Radio is using Firebase Analytics in its mobile app. But NPR wants to do some more advanced analysis than they can do out of the box with Firebase Analytics. And so they're using BigQuery from Google Cloud Platform so that they can match their front-end behavioral data with their back-end usage data and improve their overall understanding of their users' engagement and retention. We believe that this combination of Firebase's mobile feature set and the full power of Google Cloud is really powerful and can support the needs of even the most demanding applications. So I'd like to show you in practical terms what that actually means for you. What can you do together with Firebase and Google Cloud? And to do that, I'll be building an app right here called Favorite Places that's going to let you post pictures of places that you love. For today's demo, I'll be building a web application, but everything that we do is fully cross-platform, so you could do this on iOS or Android, or even using our Unity and C++ SDKs. So here are the requirements for my application. First, I want to let users be able to log into the app so they can receive a customized experience. I want users to be able to upload photos of their favorite places. I want users to be able to view a feed of the photos that they've uploaded in the past. And I want those images optimized for mobile, so I'm not wasting bandwidth or battery, and so they fit nicely on the screen. To help me build this, I'm going to use several products for Firebase. We'll be using Firebase Hosting to actually host the static web assets, Firebase Authentication with the new phone number authentication you heard about earlier today for login, cloud storage for Firebase for storing the photos, and the Firebase real-time database to store my feed metadata. This is going to get us most of the way there, but we're still missing the last requirement, which was the ability for you to scale images to fit on your phone. Now, this is actually a relatively easy problem to solve client-side if we want to. But that doesn't really help us, because mobile networks are slow, bandwidth is expensive, battery is expensive, and so we really want to do that resizing on the server side so we can optimize the delivery of those images. Ordinarily, this would be a huge hassle. We'd have to stand up a whole new service. We'd have to set up a 24/7 on-call rotation. We'd have to provision a bunch of servers. We'd have to deal with like all of the normal maintenance and scaling and operations of running that back-end service. And I don't want to do that. But fortunately, we have a much easier solution, which is Cloud Functions. Cloud Functions for Firebase is a product that we launched in March. And it gives you the ability to run small pieces of server-side code in response to events in your app, without needing you to manage your servers or scale them out. This makes it really easy for developers to do things like send a push notification when a user signs up, or thank a user for an in-app purchase, or transform data before inserting into their database, or, in the case of this app, do some image processing when a new image is uploaded. We launched Cloud Functions for Firebase in March, and the tremendous response we've seen has been really exciting. There are thousands of apps today built using Cloud Functions, and we've seen over 1 billion events running functions since then. Today, we support a number of event providers. You can see some of the products on the screen that emit events to Cloud Functions, and you should expect to see more integrated in the future. All right, so we have our requirements list. Let's actually dive in, and let's build this app. Can I get us to switch over to the laptop screen? OK. So to save time on the demo, I've actually kind of fleshed out the early stages of the app, so you can see what it looks like here. I've already populated a title bar, and we have a box for entering your phone number and a confirmation code, because we're going to be using phone number authentication. So let's add our first feature, which is Firebase Login. And login is really critical to this application, because we want to segment the data by user. You wouldn't want another user to be able to modify your photos or vice versa. And fortunately, with Firebase Auth, this is really easy to set up. We have an out-of-the-box experience that lets you log in with common providers like email and password, social auth, or even integrate with your own providers. And just today, as you heard, we announced phone number authentication, which lets your users log into your app using just their phone number and an SMS confirmation code. There's no passwords to remember or emails to type in. And Firebase authentication integrates really tightly with the other Firebase products to let you control access to different resources. So this is what's actually enabling us to segment the photos by user and the database data by user. So the first thing we'll need to do is jump over to the Firebase console, and we'll jump into our authentication tab, and we'll configure phone number authentication. So if you click authentication, sign-in method, you're going to see a new option today in the console called phone, and I'll open that up. And it turns out the configuration for phone number is really easy. You just have to enable it, which I've already done. So we're all set with configuration. Let's get started. All right. So for today's app, I'm going to be writing all of my code in TypeScript. If you like TypeScript, great. If you don't worry. You can do all of this in JavaScript. And remember, this all is fully cross-platform. So on your iOS or Android or Unity or C++ apps, you can do all of the same things. So the first piece of code I need to add is a reCAPTCHA on my page. And this is because Firebase phone number authentication uses reCAPTCHA to prevent spam and abuse. The next thing we'll want to do is hook up that GUI that you just saw so that when I click those buttons for login or confirm code, that it actually runs the appropriate handlers to do the login. So I'll insert some code here. And this is doing a couple of things. First, when I click the login button, it's running sign in with phone number, which is actually kicking off the SMS verification to my phone. And then later, after I've entered that code and clicked confirm, it's going to call confirm on the verification that has been sent to my phone. All right. And then the next thing we need to do is actually handle that login event. So we want to make sure that after the user has logged in, we hide the login screen and we showed them logged in content instead. And so we have a simple event handler here that's fired every time our authentication state changes. And I've hidden a little bit of GUI code here, but there's a helper here that's actually hiding the old UI and displaying a new UI. And I've set up a helper function here that we'll use for the rest of our example called onLogin. So I'll insert that here. And this is going to get called after the user has logged in. All right, that's it. We've added authentication to our app. Cool. Let's add our next feature. So the next thing I want to add is the ability to upload photos to my app. And just like with phone number authentication, the first place we're going to start is over in the console. So I'll jump back over to the Firebase console. This time I'll head over to the storage tab. And storage in Firebase is cloud storage. So you actually get access to the full range of Google Cloud Storage products, including buckets in regions all over the world, as well as different storage classes. So if I click up here in the upper right, I can choose to add a bucket. And I can select regions in the US or all over the world, as well as different storage classes. But it turns out for this example, the default bucket is a US central multi-region bucket, which is actually perfect for what we're trying to do. And so I'm going to stick with the default for this example. All right, so let's actually add the code to upload images into my app. In the onLogin handler here, I'm going to add a little snippet. And again, we have a UI helper function that is setting up the actual input form for me to input my photo. And then it's calling into this function when the user adds their photo. And we just have a couple lines of code here to handle that. The first is creating a reference to the file to upload. And the second is actually writing that file into cloud storage. These two lines of code here is actually all you need to upload a file directly from your app to cloud storage. All right, we're all done with that. So now, if I deployed the app, you'd see that we could click the button, and it would upload the photo. But the next step is we actually want to resize that photo. We want to go over to functions, as I mentioned earlier, and we'll jump over to that code. And we're going to set up a cloud function that takes that new object, resizes it, and puts it back into cloud functions. So the first thing I'm going to do here is actually create my cloud function. And we have an SDK for cloud functions that makes this really easy. All you need to do is add something to your exports, like we did here, and we now have a resize image cloud function. And we bind that to the events coming from cloud storage with this line right here. So this means that this function is going to run anytime a new object is uploaded to cloud storage. The next thing we need to do is do a little bit of parsing. So I'll add some code here to actually look at the request and pull out some variables that we need. And we want to make sure that we're only doing image resizing for newly uploaded images. We don't want to have this event run when we resize the images, because that would put us in an infinite loop. So we're going to jump out of this function if this is not a new upload. And then let's do the actual image resizing. So I have a bit of code here that is first downloading the image from cloud storage to my local Cloud Functions VM and putting it into a temp directory. Then I'm spawning a new process with ImageMagick to do the actual resizing. And finally, I'm uploading that file back into cloud storage. And that should do it. That handles our image resize. So let's move on to our next feature. So we want to have a feed of images so you can see what was in our app, what we've uploaded previously to the app. And so we're going to store that in the Firebase real-time database. And we want to add to that feed after the image resize has occurred, because if we did it beforehand, you might see the non-resized image. And we want to see the resized image. So we're actually going to do that in our cloud function as well. So I'll add a little snippet here, which after we've resized the code, is going to push a new item into our real-time database with some metadata about the new object to display. And then finally, we want to jump back over to our client-side code. And we actually want to display the feed in the app. And so to do that, we're going to listen on the real-time database to all new children of our feed. And for each of those items, I have some code here to actually add the UI. And I have a helper function to make that a little bit easier. Cool. So that should do it. So I'll just save this file. And I'm going to jump over to the command line. And I'm going to deploy this to Firebase. And we're going to let that run. And while this is running, I want to show you a couple of features that I maybe didn't mention earlier that I think are really exciting you might want to know about. So let's jump back over to our iOS simulator here. And let's look at the top of the screen. You'll notice that this app is hosted at favoriteplaces.pictures. This is a domain name I bought yesterday. And this is a custom domain. This isn't something that Firebase provided for you. This is something that I bought. And you'll notice also that there's a little lock icon right here. And that's because we're actually serving this page over HTTPS. One of the really cool features about Firebase hosting is that we automatically provision an SSL certificate for you on your custom domain, and we do it for free. So if you want a simple way to get your assets online on your domain with SSL, use Firebase hosting. The other cool feature I want to point out is that if you look in our code, at the top of our client-side code, you'll notice that there's no API keys up here. There's no default settings or configuration. It just declares this Firebase variable. And that's because Firebase hosting is actually configuring the Firebase SDK for me automatically. I don't have to put any special configuration here, which is really convenient to get going. But it's especially useful if I'm managing multiple environments. Say I have a staging environment and a production environment. This makes it simple for me to do that without managing those keys. OK, so let's jump back over to our deploy. It looks like it finished. Fantastic. OK, let's give this a shot. So I'm going to go back to my mobile app. And I'm going to refresh. Great. And I'm going to type in my phone number here. And I'm going to send myself an SMS confirmation. But Google doesn't know if I'm a human or not. So the reCAPTCHA is actually checking to make sure I'm really a person and not a bot to prevent abuse. And it wants me to select pictures of storefronts. I hope I don't fail this in front of all of you. How's that look? Is that right? OK. Oh, nope, that wasn't it. All right, I'm a human. Yes, great. And then I'm going to wait for my SMS. There we go. And I have it, so I'll type that in. All right, we're logged in. It worked. Cool. OK, so now I'm going to upload some photos into my app. So I'll click this plus button. And I actually have a few images already on my phone. So let's upload a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. And I'll click that button. And right now, what's going on behind the scenes is I am uploading that picture directly from my mobile phone into cloud storage that is triggering an event in Cloud Functions, which is then downloading that image into Cloud Functions, resizing it, putting it back into Cloud Functions, then adding some feed data into the real-time database, which is pushing that data out to my mobile app, and it is responding to an event on the device to update my feed. And all of that happened with the code that I just showed you. Now, I want to show you something that I talked about earlier, but I think is really easier to understand if you see it. And that is that when you're using Firebase, you are using Cloud Platform. Now, remember, we uploaded that image using the Firebase SDK for cloud storage. And we configured this using the Firebase console for cloud storage. So of course, if I go over and I look in the console for Firebase and I reload this page, you would expect to see some images in here. I can look in here and see that there's content here. But what you might not expect is that if I go over to the Cloud Storage console tab in Google Cloud Platform, and I look in my bucket there, I see the exact same contents. They are literally the same platform. It's the same product. They have the same data. OK, so I think we're all done. I thought that went really well. I don't know about you guys. I thought that went great. And I really want to share this with my friends, and I think my mom would be super excited about this. So I'm actually going to pull out my phone here, and I'm just going to take a picture of this app here. Hang on, I got to turn my flash on. And
what are you doing?
Oh, hey, this is sort of awkward, Michael. I'm actually doing an I/O talk right now.
Oh, well, I know that, but now you seem to be trying to take a picture of your laptop with your phone. What's that about?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm really good with Twitter. And I have a lot of followers, so I just thought it'd be cool if I took a picture of the app that I just built, and I tweeted that. Actually, here, why don't you hold this, and then I'll just pose in front of the laptop. I'll just kind of go right here.
Wait. Wouldn't your followers rather have a link to the content that you have on the screen there than just a blurry photo from your phone?
Yeah, that might be cool, but it's not going to work because actually there's no way for me to share a URL of that content. It's a single-page app.
Well, there's no way to share a URL yet. Tell you what, let me jump in here for just a second. I think I can whip something together in just a few minutes, and I think you'll like it. Can I take over here?
Sure, that sounds awesome. Yeah, give it a try.
Hey, everybody. I'm Michael Bly. I'm the engineering lead on Firebase hosting and the Firebase CLI. Can we flip back over to the slides for a minute? Great. So it's great that we have this app where we can upload photos and then take a look at a feed of our photos. But if this is supposed to be a sharing app, I think we're falling short. It's a little lonely. There's no way to share this with anybody else. So let's add one more feature to our app, which is a great social sharing experience. And for this feature, we're going to need four new requirements. First, we're going to need a shareable URL so that I can send it to any of my friends, and they can instantly get to the piece of content that I'm trying to send. Second, we're going to need that content to be high performance and scalable. What happens if my tweet goes viral? I need to be able to handle that load. Third, we're going to want the image thumbnail of the photo that I'm sharing to show up embedded in the tweet so that people are drawn in and they have a bigger target to click. And finally, we're going to want to automatically recommend some tweet text so that people have a frictionless sharing experience. They just click a couple buttons, and bam, they've shared it. Now, how am I going to tackle all of these new requirements? You might have heard today that we've launched a brand new integration between Firebase hosting and Cloud Functions, and that's really going to help us out here. Now you can create rewrite rules for Firebase hosting that will send matching requests to a Cloud function that you specify. This gives you the ability to mix and match Firebase hosting's production-grade static hosting with the dynamic processing power of Cloud Functions. This is a great new tool to help you build capable, performant mobile apps. So Cloud Functions and Firebase hosting can get us most of the way there. That checks off 3 of the boxes. I can dynamically generate HTML for a shareable URL. Firebase hosting's global CDN gives me the performance and stability characteristics that I need. And because I'm rendering the content server-side, Twitter's crawlers can pick up that metadata and embed it in the tweet. But what I don't have is a way to automatically recommend tweet text. You'll notice that there was no title added to the photo when Andrew uploaded it. He just sent the image. So how are we going to tackle this last requirement? Well, luckily, as Andrew told you, a Firebase project is a Google Cloud project. And one of the Google Cloud Platform's strongest characteristics are its machine learning APIs. One of those is the Cloud Vision API that can analyze images and actually tell you about the content. One of the features of the Cloud Vision API is landmark detection. And when we're uploading our favorite places, that's a natural fit for this feature. So we're going to use that to help us out and build this feature. So let's jump over to the code and get started. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm in the browser code, and the first thing that I need to do is add, oh, sorry, could we jump over to the laptop? There we go. So we're in the browser code, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a share button to every item in my feed. So add a little piece of code here. So I'm just defining a share URL that's going to be /places/ and then an ID for my image. And I'm going to add that to this helper that we've already set up. So there we go. So with that change, now every image on my feed is going to have a share button that links to /places/ID. But of course, there's nothing there yet. So we need to build that functionality. So now I'm going to jump over to the Cloud Functions code. Now, one of the things that I like the most about Cloud Function is that I was already a Node.js developer, and Cloud Functions works great with the Node ecosystem. So I like building web apps with Express.js, and that works out of the box with Cloud Functions. So here, I'm defining a simple Express app. So I define my Express app, and I'm defining a single route, which you might recognize from the last screen. And then I'm just parsing a few things out of the URL, and I'm setting up some content. So I don't know what I'm going to use for the landmark name yet, but I have a URL and a description and a tweet. And now I need to send some data back. Now, I could use any server-side rendering framework, any template engine that I want. But for our case, in a simple demo, I'm just going to inline some HTML. So here we go. OK, so there's my HTML. It's a really simple page. But one thing that I want to call out are these Twitter meta tags that I have in the header. That's the metadata that allows Twitter to parse the URL and then display information embedded in the tweet. And Twitter doesn't execute JavaScript on your site. So this isn't something that I could have done just by loading the Firebase Web SDK and then manually rendering that with browser-side JavaScript after the fact. It has to be done on the server. Other than that, this is just a really simple page that will render my image and have a tweet button that when I click it will have some pre-populated text. So now I've built my Express app, but I need to actually export that as a Cloud Function. Luckily, as Andrew showed you, that's incredibly easy. I just add a single line export, and now I've created an HTTPS Cloud Function. And you'll notice that I just passed my Express app directly into that Cloud Function handler. I didn't have to do any special wrapping. There was no special handling required, because Cloud Functions works really well with the Node.js ecosystem. OK, so now I've built my Cloud Function, but I want to serve this on my own domain using Firebase hosting. So how do I go about that? Well, I'm going to jump over to the firebase.json. And here you can see that we already have one hosting rewrite set up that redirects any URL to index.html. And this is a great solution if you're building a single-page web app that's all browser-side, because you have JavaScript that runs in the client and figures out all of the logic for your page. But now I'm adding some server-side logic. Luckily, again, this is really simple. I just add one line of configuration that's going to rewrite my share URL to the function called serveSharePage that I just defined. So now I've not only built my Cloud Function, I've connected it to Firebase hosting, so it's going to serve on my domain name. Now, that's most of our requirements. But again, the last one was that we would auto-populate the tweet text with something relevant to the actual content. And another one of my favorite features of Cloud Functions is that when you're executing in the Cloud Functions environment, you are automatically authorized to use all of the Google Cloud APIs for that project. So if I want to use the Google Cloud Vision SDK for Node.js, there's no config strings or initialization that I have to pass into that. I just initialize it with a single line and an empty call. Now below, I'm going to replace this to-do with my actual code. So I have a single line of code that passes my GCS, my Google Cloud Storage file, over to the Cloud Vision API, and that's going to detect the landmarks and return that as a response, which I'm then saving as a variable and using in my HTML. So I think that's everything that I need to do. In just a couple minutes, I've built a social sharing experience with server-side rendered content that uses the Cloud Vision API to populate a description. So let's go ahead and deploy that. Now, while that's deploying, I wanted to call out one other thing that I did here. You'll see on this line that I set a cache control header in my response. Now, one of the best features of Firebase hosting is that we put everything behind a global CDN that caches things at the edge so that people who are in the same area get a lightning fast response to images, to things that have already been cached. Now, by default, we're not caching Cloud Functions responses because we don't know how frequently they change, what kind of characteristics they have. So this is something that you opt into, but that's really easy. All you have to do is set a cache control header on your response. In this case, I'm saying public, which means this is OK to be cached by a CDN. I'm setting a max age of 5 minutes or 300 seconds, which is how long the browser is going to cache it. And then I'm setting an S max age, which tells the CDN how long it should cache it, in this case, 2 hours. So with that one line, I'm now telling Firebase hosting that you can cache any response from this endpoint for 2 hours when you receive it. And that's really going to help me with those performance and scaling characteristics that I talked about. So I'm going to go over to the deploy, and it looks like that's going to be finishing up. But I think that I've built everything that I wanted to build here. So let's see if my quick coding was enough to impress my boss. Hey, Andrew, can you come take a look at this?
Did you get it all working?
I think so. So I just deployed it. I'm going to refresh the page here to get the latest code. All right, so you can see now there's a share button, but I'm going to upload a new photo just for good measure. Let's take a look. How about, that was a great picture. So you can see it's processing the image just like before, and that is just running the same resize code that Andrew already showed you. But now I'm going to tap on the share button. And that is going to call out to my Cloud function running on Firebase hosting. And you can see that I have the image, and the Cloud Vision API has recognized this as the Palace of Fine Arts. I also have this tweet button that makes it really easy to share. So I'm going to do that. And you can see that it has pre-populated the tweet text with check out my awesome picture of the Palace of Fine Arts and a link to that content. So I'm going to go ahead and tweet that. Great. And I'm going to pull up my Twitter feed just to see how that looks. Do a quick refresh. Try that one more time. There we go. And there you go. The photo's embedded in my tweet. What do you think?
Very cool. And that was super fast, Michael.
Great.
So I think the best part about this is that since this is at favoriteplaces.pictures, you can all pull it up on your own phones and give it a try right now if you like. And while you do that, I'm going to play with it myself, because that was super cool, Michael, and I want to try this. So I'm going to jump back over here to my app. And I'll choose one more picture. This time I'll do the arch. We'll let that upload. There we go. And I'll tweet one more time. There we go. Cool. Does anyone manage to log in on their phone? All right, I got some thumbs up. Awesome. Cool. Can we jump back to the slides? All right. To quickly recap, we just built that app using 6 different products from Google. Firebase hosting, Firebase authentication, the Firebase real-time database, cloud storage for Firebase, cloud functions for Firebase, and the Cloud Vision API. And all that together made this app work. There's a lot more I'd love to show you. That's just scratching the surface of the products that we have, but I only have 40 minutes to talk. So instead, I'll really encourage you to give this a try on your own. You can get started in just a few minutes at firebase.google.com or cloud.google.com. Our goal is really to handle the common infrastructure for you so that you can focus on the things that actually drive value for you users rather than focusing on making the basics work. I think you'll find that between the two platforms, we really have a pretty comprehensive offering. And we reach across the entire spectrum of mobile app development. So hopefully we can fulfill the requirements of even your most demanding applications. Before I go, I want to touch briefly on another topic I'm really excited about, and that is open source. Google has a long history of prolific open source contributions. Last year alone, we had hundreds of thousands of commits to open source repos on GitHub across more than 15,000 projects. And we've heard a lot of feedback from the Firebase community that you'd love to see Firebase do more of this as well. And so I'm really excited to say today that we are doing that. And today is the first wave of those releases. And it's going to include the SDKs for a number of the backend service products on iOS, the web, and our server-side admin SDKs. And we'll have more coming soon. By making our SDKs open, we're really trying to show a commitment to our community of transparency, and we're trying to build a stronger relationship with you. We haven't just thrown the code over the wall either. This is going to become a core part of our own tool chain. So if you want to report a bug or you want to send a pull request, we're listening, file issues on GitHub, send us a pull request. We can't wait to see what you do. You can go check out these repos right now on GitHub. The links are right here. If you want to learn more about Firebase or Cloud Platform, we have more than 24 sessions, I believe, at I/O. I highlighted a few of the most relevant ones here, but I really encourage you to follow the link on the lower right there that has a link to all the Firebase sessions. Also, there's a sandbox right out the door right here that has a number of the Firebase staff present if you have more questions. And I'm going to be waiting outside right here in the parking lot, too, if you would like to speak to with me after the talk. So thank you very much for coming.